Hey gang, so what I want to do here today is give you an update on my 2023 Triumph Tiger 1200 GT Explorer. I bought this bike back in August of 2022, and in about 4 months of riding, I've put now 7,000 miles on the bike, and I just got home from my first long trip, and that was a 2,000-mile, 9-day trip where I rode from my home just south of Boston, Massachusetts, down to Appomattox, Virginia, for the Horizons Unlimited Travelers Meet down there. I had a great time, and you can watch this video to find out more about that adventure. Now, before we get going, I have to do the obligatory things that are required here on YouTube. And that is that if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Remember to subscribe and ring that bell so you get notified when new videos come out. And also, if you want more, you want to interact with me and other fellow travelers, well, you can join my Travelers Club out on my website at livingofftheslab.com. All right, now that all of that is out of the way, let's get talking about this motorcycle. So over the 7,000 miles that I've been riding this bike, I have to say that I've had zero major problems with it. The bike has performed essentially flawlessly during that time, and I'm really happy with the bike. Is it perfect? No, we'll get into some things here in a minute that I don't like or I'd like to see changed, but overall the bike is just fabulous. Triumph has done a really great job redoing this motorcycle over the previous version. Handles great, the suspension works great, the brakes work great, plenty of power. Again, just everything has really performed up to my expectations. So next, let's talk about comfort of this motorcycle, because again, this was the first time I really got to take it out on a multi-day trip and to see what it was going to feel like to ride it again over that kind of distance. And overall, the bike has done really well for me. I did make a couple of modifications to it. That is, I am using the low seat on this bike. I'm 5'9". I have a 31-inch inseam, so the bike is a bit tall for me when you're using the standard seat, and at least in the high position. Now, what I ended up doing was I used that low seat, but I do use it in the high position. I dropped it all the way down to the lowest possible setting, but that just wasn't comfortable for me. That made my lower body and my shoulders uncomfortable to sit in that kind of cramped position. So I ended up raising that low seat up to the higher position, and I'm very comfortable on the bike. And again, my butt is comfortable over the course of a long day. You know, stopping every 100, 150 miles, I still have to do that anyway. So overall, again, this works very well. Now, I do have one question though. Even though I did spring to buy the low seat on this bike and I'm using it in the high position, I don't know that there's that much difference between using the standard seat in the low position and this seat in the high position. It probably gets you to pretty much the same point. So if you are a guy like me that not the tallest guy in the world, I would try using that standard seat in the lower position and see if you can make that work for you before springing for the low seat. Now, another thing that I did to make the bike more comfortable is I found some bar risers from a company called Voigt out of Germany. They make a 22 millimeter extension that brings your bars up about an inch or so. Now, I would have liked to have actually brought the bars back towards me a little bit, but I couldn't find anything, at least that's on the market right now, that works with this bike. You see, this has the 8-gallon tank on it because it's the Explorer model, so that gives you a little bit more of a bulbous upper body to the tank, and so you can't move the bars back at least as much as I would like to have them move back. But raising them up about an inch or so has proved to be a big benefit for me, and I didn't have to do anything as far as lengthening all of the cables and so forth. It worked just right out of the box, and it was very easy to do. Now let me say one other thing about adjusting the bar position. I said I only brought the bars up and I didn't bring them back, and That's not entirely true. Triumph has two positions that are available for those bar risers built right into the triple trees. Right, so you can use the standard forward positions that comes with the motorcycle on the showroom floor, or it's really easy to take the bars off and move them back about 1.5 inches backwards into the rear position, and that's what I did, and that did make a big difference for me. So I did end up bringing them back a little bit, again, as far as I could with what Triumph has set up, and again, raise them up using those Voight extensions. So while we're talking about comfort, let's talk about the windscreen on this bike. I had mentioned previously that I didn't have much of a problem with this windscreen as far as buffeting and so forth goes, and that continues to be true. I don't get a whole lot of buffeting or anything like that. A little bit when I'm behind a truck, but again, I do that on every motorcycle, right? Trucks kind of shake you around a little bit. But on this bike, I do find that because it's an adventure bike, it has a little bit of smaller screen, you do get more wind in the chest, which is a good thing on a hot day, but on a colder day, like we had going down and back to Virginia, well, then you're gonna get cooler, right? I had to throw on an extra layer during this ride to keep myself warm enough riding this motorcycle. Also, you get a little bit more wind on the hands. There's not as much protection out there as riding on a big touring bike. So that is something to think about. I'm probably going to get myself a set of hippo hands to put on here when it gets cold like it was on this last trip. So another thing having to do with comfort is that this bike does come with adjustable levers, right? So I've been able to adjust the brake back to be comfortable for me, so it's easily workable. And the clutch, I've got it back as far as I can get it, but it's still a little bit far out. I would like to see that come back a couple more notches, but again, I can't get it to come back any farther. So that is one thing, again, I would like to see changed, or maybe make some shorty levers or something available for this bike, because it is a little bit of a reach for me to really pull that clutch in all the way. And the last thing we'll talk about as far as the ride quality, the comfort on this motorcycle, is that buzz that I talked about in some of my previous videos. Right, there is a little bit of a buzz that comes off of this engine at particular speeds when you get around 3,500, 4,000 RPMs in third gear, for example. It gets a little bit buzzy. You can feel it in your butt, and you can feel it a little bit in your hands. When I first got the bike, I noticed it more. Now I don't really notice it hardly at all unless I really concentrate on it. And it's nothing that's obtrusive that makes me, not comfortable or anything like that, but it is there. So some people who are really sensitive to that kind of thing probably should, think about testing this bike out and seeing if they can deal with that. I don't feel a ton in the handle grips up here while I'm riding, but I can see that the mirrors are shaking. The mirrors are buzzing a little bit. Again, it's nothing that bothers me, but again, it is there, so you need to be aware of that. All right, so next let's talk about the tires that came on this bike. It came with the Metzeler Torrance Next tire, which is basically a street touring tire. And I don't know, I didn't really care for them. At first they seemed to be fine, and as far as the rear goes, I was getting good wear on the tire. I still have it, but the front, I did not like the wear pattern that I was getting on the front tire. After about 4,000 miles, because it's a dual compound tire, it's softer on the sides, harder in the center, I was getting this raised center ridge in the tire and a lot of scalloping out on the sides, and I could really feel that as I was, taking a bike through the corners and so forth. So before my trip down to Virginia, I decided to swap out the tires. So what I have on there now is the Michelin Anarchy Adventure tire. It's an 80/20 tire, and I only have 2,000 miles on them so far, but I really like them up to this point. They were great in the rain, had lots of rain on this last trip. And again, I've really enjoyed them. Again, so far, but again, I only have 2,000 miles on it, so we'll have to see what happens over the next few thousand. So next up, let's talk about a couple of things I don't like about the bike, or some gripes about the bike. And they're really relatively minor as far as things go, but they are there. And first of all was, as you saw in a previous video, I did have a small oil leak that came from the oil filler cap when I first got this bike. And it seems to be a fairly common issue. I've seen a lot of people who responded to my video that had this same kind of problem, and some dealers responded to it by changing out the gasket, and sometimes that fixed it and sometimes that didn't fix it. My eventual fix was to bump up the size of the gasket by 1 millimeter. It comes with an 18.3 and I moved up to an 18.4 O-ring, and that seems to have solved the problem completely. I think that what's going on is that the indentation that gets milled into the engine where the gasket sits, well, it's a little too deep for the 18.3. So that's why bumping it up to the 18.4 solves the problem. Again, a relatively minor thing. But a lot of dealers don't even know about it. So the next little gripe is how the seat is mounted to the motorcycle here, right? Triumph has come up with this way that is really easy to change the height of the seat, right? And that's to use these little rubber things here, right? Here, let me get the seat and I'll show you. So this is the seat, and this is the way that it works both on the front here and in the rear of the seat. There's this little bar here that you can pull out and adjust and move it from the high position to the low position. And it's pulled into place with that little elastic thing that I was showing you. Well, on the rear, right, there's a lot more stress every time you put the seat in and off out of the bike, right? That little rubber, whatever it is, spring, I guess, that thing gets stressed a little bit. And so I had one break on me while I was trying to adjust the seat. Now, of course, they covered that under warranty. Took me about 3 weeks to get the part, right? But they still covered it with no questions asked. But that's kind of a little bit of an area that I think that should need to be addressed in future models. It's kind of a good idea as far as being easy to adjust, but I don't know, that rubber piece is a little bit Mickey Mouse. All right, so now let's move on to what is my biggest complaint about this motorcycle, and that is how the dash works, right? The TFT screen. It's big, it's beautiful, right? It is easy to read. The problem is they hide a lot of information that I would like to see displayed out there on the main screen. The main one for me is the trip meter, right? When I go out on a ride and I fill up with gas, I reset my trip meter and I want to see how far I've gone, right? Because I like to stop every 100 miles, for example, right? Stop and rest, go to the bathroom, take a break, what have you. And being that the trip meter is buried under about 5 clicks, right? Well, it doesn't make it very easy to use, right? So that is a big complaint to me. I don't see how somebody who's designing a touring motorcycle, if they know anything about touring riders, would stick that back underneath there. The odometer is also buried way in there. That's not such a big problem because you're not checking your odometer most of the time. But there are other things that some people may want to see, like your engine temperature, right? Some people like to have that out there. Well, it's buried as well. Pretty much everything except for your speed and your RPMs are buried somewhere within the system. The clock is always there, the temperature is always there, but everything else, you have several clicks before you can get to it, right? And while it's nice to have the temperature out there, it really doesn't do much for me. So what I would hope to see in some update in the future is that they make this more programmable, that they allow me to configure this dash some way that I can put the things out there that I want to see. At least give me the option to put my odometer, my trip meter out there so that I can use it more easily. Another minor complaint is that the bike can be a bit hard starting when it's cold. And I went up to the dealer and I talked to them about that, and they showed me that, yeah, pretty much all of the Triumphs on their showroom floor were that way. Basically, they explained to me that because of emission requirements and so forth, that the bikes are running very lean, especially at startup. So again, they can be a little bit hard to start. I found that if I turn the bike on initially, again, let that pump prime, wait a second or two, or maybe even give the throttle a couple of twists, then the bike will start up really quickly. If, however, I just jump on there without giving it enough time to prime, well, then it will, it'll grind for a few minutes, or not a few minutes, a few seconds, and then I have to stop and then start it again, and then it'll start up for me. So again, that's a minor complaint, and I've been able to learn how to make it work better. But, it is kind of a thing that you need to be aware of. All right, so now let's talk about costs on this bike. Now, so far, to be honest with you, I haven't had really to do much to the bike other than change those tires. I took the wheels off myself and took them up to the dealer, and they did it for me. So that was no big deal. I mean, that's a cost every bike is going to have to bear. So I haven't had any service done to this bike, so I don't know what we're looking at as far as that goes, or as far as, reliability goes. I've only had it for 7,000 miles. Again, I've had no problems. It's going to take probably a couple of seasons before I really know about the reliability of this motorcycle. So far, it's much farther ahead than my BMW was. I had my first problem about 1,400 miles with that bike. With this one, again, I've got 7,000 miles on it, trouble-free. Now, there are, however, a couple of hidden costs. That is, if you want to get these pieces of equipment. One is the battery charger for this. This has a lithium battery on it, so it requires a specialized charger. Now, I'm sure that there are other chargers out there that will work with this battery, but of course, Triumph says that if you want to have the warranty cover the battery and the electrical system, they want you to use their equipment. So I went ahead and I sprung for the Triumph charger, and it cost about $200. That's about the same price as other chargers for lithium batteries out there that I've seen, but that is, again, an extra charge. Now, my dealer tells me that when I hook this up, I should not just leave this up like you do to a normal battery tender, for example, with a standard lead acid battery, that the lithium battery, you should, again, not have it always being charged, always being maintained. So what I did over the winter here was I would hook it up for a day, bring the battery up to charge, and then I would leave it there for a month. And then I would go back out and I would hook it up again once a month over the course of the winter. And that seemed to do great. The battery didn't lose a whole lot over the month, and it started up right away the first time when I decided to get it back on the road in March. Now, one other hidden charge is the service manual for this motorcycle. Like many European bikes nowadays, getting to be more and more, I'm not sure if Harley does this or if Indian does this now, but Triumph, BMW, Ducati, right, they all do this. They don't have a service manual that's available for the consumer to buy. You just can't get it anymore. But I have to say that Triumph at least allows you to get a subscription to their online service manual. And while that is kind of expensive at $100 a year, at least it is available. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and subscribed to it, and I'm going to at least do it for the first year or so. as I go through the bike, as I learn about what I need to do, the certain things that I'm going to be maintaining on the bike, I can write all that stuff down, and once I don't need the manual anymore, then, well, I can discontinue it. But right now, that's the only place that you can get torque settings and things like that. Like taking the wheels off, well, I would have had no idea what the torque settings are unless I had that manual. So far it's proven to be valuable to me. Again, will it be valuable over the course of the lifetime of this bike? Once I get used to working on it and I know all the settings, well, then I'm probably going to discontinue that. All right, so I think that's it. Overall, I am very happy with this motorcycle so far. It's great. I love riding it, even with its minor quirks and so forth. So I'm looking forward to taking this on an even longer trip here this summer and just putting a ton more miles on it. So I'll let you know. I'll keep you up to date. Once I take it in for service and so forth, I'll let you know how much it costs and all of those kinds of things. But so far, I'm loving this bike. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll see you later.